Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Eloquent English Enterprise. Now, sometimes for me, it becomes a tongue twister. But anyways, so a very warm welcome to all my old teammates and to the new ones who've just joined. Thank you so much for trusting me and being with me on this voyage towards better English. Okay, so today I'm going to take up the presentation which I had presented to a very august audience last evening. That was on how to develop critical thinking skills. Because this topic has often been talked about, it's very popular. But how do we go about it is what I'm going to deal with today as a teacher and as a student. So here's a presentation. It could be a little longish one, but I'll request you to be patient and see it till the end because it's going to prove helpful. I feel it. It's my feeling. It's my belief. So trust me, it's going to be something nice for you as well. So here is the presentation. Just a minute. I'm sorry. Sometimes, these technical issues just come up and yeah, sorry for that 30-minute disruption. Okay, so welcome everyone today on this platform for this webinar or a presentation. It's not a webinar, it was yesterday. So this online meet, or this was actually for yesterday's meet. So welcome to Eloquent English Enterprise. Now, this is the moot topic. This is the main topic for today. Critical thinking skills, how can they be developed? Now, when we think of critical thinking, it's been discussed many a times, and we keep harping upon the fact that this kind of thinking should be promoted amongst our children. But we have a very little idea of what this is all about. So it is something which a child may be born with. Okay, he could be a critical thinker or she could be a critical thinker by birth. But it just in case it doesn't happen, then these are certain skills which can be developed. Okay. So critical thinking is something which is mandatory in today's times in the 21st century. Okay, before we move on to critical thinking, I'll just revise something. These are the 4 C's in the 21st century education. And again, I think I've mentioned it in one of my previous videos as well. So the first is critical thinking, which is really important because from here everything starts off. Then we have creativity. Always be creative. Try to make new things from whatever raw material is available to you. It could be as something physical, or it could be ideas as well. A noun which exists, a person, place, thing, etc. It could be even an abstract noun. The third important one is collaboration. We are living in an age where collaboration is of utmost importance. So collaboration is the third C in 21st century education. And the last one is communication. If you have good critical thinking skills, if you're creative, if you can collaborate, you need to communicate your ideas to your society. Okay, so these are the 4 C's, and I'm going to take up the first one today. What is critical thinking? When we talk about, I just mentioned. So if we need to define it, this is it. It is an intellectually disciplined process which actively and skillfully analyzes information. It helps you form your judgments and also helps you solve problems in an easier manner, in a relatively easy manner. So it's not something which just, occurs on its own. It can be developed, it can be seasoned, and it can be made better. So it is an intellectual process, and it requires disciplining a few of your faculties to become active and skillful in the analysis of information, to form judgments, and to solve problems. And as mentioned earlier, it's an essential skill for success in the 21st century. All right. Now, critical thinking is the intellectually disciplined process of actively and skillfully analyzing information, like whatever information you get, you skillfully analyze it, because if you just take it as a rote information, you won't be able to do much. So whatever information is given, try to understand and skillfully analyze it, and then form your own judgments and solve problems. Like, for example, I mentioned yesterday also, if a teacher says that a bar magnet, for example, in physics, if a bar magnet has two ends, one of them is a North Pole and one of them is a South Pole. And children do not question this. But if it's a critical thinker, if a student is good at critical thinking, he or she will ask, "Sir, how do we know? How can you say this is North Pole and this is South Pole?" So this should make the teacher happy rather than get angry or a little hassled. Hang it, take a piece of string, hang it, and then initially the magnet is going to rotate a little this way, that way, and then it's going to come to a still position. Then you can say, however, how many times, even if you keep rotating it or you keep disturbing it, this particular magnet is going to come to rest at this particular position only, because the end which is pointing towards the north is the North Pole and the one which is pointing towards south is the South Pole, because Earth has a magnetic field. So you give an idea to the child to understand that it's not just the magnet which has magnetic ability, but the Earth where we reside also has a magnetic field. Slowly and steadily, and with a little more of work and information, the children are going to decipher that even the Earth has a certain magnetic field. Okay, so this is how you make critical thinkers in your class. You have to help them as a teacher. Next one. Critical thinking, then, it involves a few processes. I'm sorry, the screen is not completely visible. Just let me put this here. Okay, critical thinking involves what all? Let's see. Questioning. Okay, sometimes we get upset with children who keep asking questions. Of course, they have to be relevant. Do not entertain any question which is not related to the topic that you're discussing in the class. So questioning is important. I remember as small children, we had cousins and all, and whenever there was a movie going on, they would ask, why is this person crying? What has happened to him? Or why is she going away crying from this place? So we had to give them answers, right? They wanted to understand the movie. They wanted to understand the story. So the questions were relevant. A child's inquisitiveness should never, ever be snubbed. If they ask you relevant questions, please do answer them. The next one is analysis. When you give them information, you tell them, give them a free hand. Do you believe it? Do you think this is true? Do you think this is correct? So let them just think it over. Let them analyze the information which you've given. And maybe there are a couple of students who want to ask you questions again. So make that child, or you kind of create that situation for them. If it's an experiment, it can easily be done. If it's something else, you ask them to collect evidence from the net, because that's easily available, but give them those sites which are reliable. Do not ever give them those sites to go on which are unreliable or which you do not approve of. Evaluation. Once they've done the analysis, then tell them to evaluate that particular situation or that particular theory on their own. Okay, because their personal judgments also should be given importance and respect, because every child is unique. Every child thinks differently. I have seen it for myself when I was teaching in Delhi. My class 8 girls or my class 6 girls would come up with such brilliant ideas. I was, left stunned that how can they think of so many things at this particular such young age. But yes, children are gifted today. And then the synthesis. Whatever information has been gathered, then you synthesize that information. What I'll do is I'll just minimize myself so that you can see the screen properly. Okay. So this is it. Like, you combine the information from various sources to create new ideas or solutions. And when you're doing evaluation, you make them understand that they should weigh the evidences collected, consider different perspectives, and make seasoned and reasoned judgments. Whatever judgment is made, it should be very, very, reasonable. They should use their reasoning ability to come to that particular, derivation. And of course, then they synthesize the information collected for new ideas to be made. Why is critical thinking important in education? Of course it is, because again, today, the times have changed. We do not promote rote memorization or rote learning. So how do we see, or how can I prove, or what are the advantages of promoting critical thinking? These are the ones. When you promote critical thinking amongst your students, they tend to have a deeper learning of the concepts. They don't learn things on the face value or just, whatever is on the top layer. They go deep down and they feel, they understand the concept. They actually understand what is being taught to them. So critical thinking fosters a deeper understanding of concepts rather than rote memorization. The problem-solving skills of students get better, they are improved, because then they can apply critical thinking skills to tackle real-world problems, all right? And they can then make informed decisions. The next advantage is information literacy. We know literacy. We all know what is literacy. Information literacy is a kind of a new term, and this means to make the children more adept, or more better at evaluating the credibility of the information which they get from different sources today. All right. As I just mentioned a little while ago, that there's so much information available on the internet, but lots of it, I think 80% of it is fake, especially whatever we find today on WhatsApp. It's not true. So we have to make our students, intelligent enough to understand that the information, whatever they are getting, is correct or it is incorrect. So they should only go to those sources, to those sites which are reliable sites. All right. And this only the teachers can tell them. So information literacy is to evaluate the credibility of information that is derived from different sources, online sources. All right. Because this is the age of information overload. There's so much of information available that the child tends to get confused. So to avoid confusion, teachers have to help their pupils. Communication. Critical thinking skills, they enhance or they increase, they make better the ability to express ideas clearly, logically, and persuasively. If I know of something, but I'm not able to convey it to you, it doesn't make sense. Or maybe the idea is not really good, but I have very good communication skills. So you will probably understand me and you will agree with me. So in this age, communication skills will become automatically better if the child is a critical thinker, because he or she will have the ability to express the ideas clearly, logically, and persuasively. Next one. Okay, how do we train teachers? See, this is the most important part of this presentation, because I am now actually talking to teachers and not to students. So how do I help my colleagues to become very good trainers of, to train your students as far as critical thinking skills are concerned? So the first thing is, this is what you are supposed to do. You have to do that model part yourself. You have to do modeling of critical thinking. That is, create a situation and you give them the ideas. Okay, this is how you can come out of the situation. So give 2-3 examples. Like, for example, you can say that I am stuck on the 10th floor of a building and the building catches fire. So children, how do I get out of this? So somebody will say, ma'am, you take the elevator. You will say, no, child, I cannot take the elevator because electricity, can be switched off anytime and I'll get stuck. I'll have no way to escape. So that's not okay. That's not the correct answer or correct thing to do. So another student may come up, ma'am, you can just come down from the stairs. So you say, beta, I'm on the 10th floor. And because of this fire, a part of the stairs has got broken. So I can't jump. If I jump, I'll be jumping to death. What do I do? Then another child may say, ma'am, you can find out a rope and then, you can tie it. So you'll say, I mean, in a burning building, where do I go to find a rope? So whatever, solutions are given to you, then you think, you say that, when a building catches fire, within minutes, the fire brigade comes and they help, the people who got stuck, they are helped out. Probably I'll also be lucky and I'll be brought down. Or maybe, as you suggested, there could be a rope which I find and I can tie it to the windowsill or something, heavy in the room and get down from that. So you give them a situation. Now, this is something which is a little negative. Suppose another situation, you can tell them that you're alone at home. Now, this is what the children will do. You will not give them any options. Okay. You are at home and your relatives come in, like your uncle and aunt, they drop in with their children. Your parents are not at home, you're alone. What will you do in this situation? You are not allowed to light the gas and you don't want your aunt to go and work in the kitchen because she's tired. So what will you do? Now let the children come up with their own ideas. I'll make lemonade, I'll get some soft drinks, I'll get some chips. And that's what the children know, whatever is available. So encourage them, praise them for their thoughts. And this is how they will start feeling happier. They'll start feeling confident. So this is how you can model critical thinking in class. The second one is to, give them a situation where they can ask open-ended questions, or you give them open-ended questions. Give them a situation and ask them certain questions, which can be answered both ways. Okay. Like, for example, you're going to a wedding. So what kind of dress will you wear? Somebody will say, I'll wear jeans and, some very gaudy kind of a top. Somebody will say, I'll wear a garara. Girls may say, boy might say that I'm going to wear a silk suit with a nice bow and tie or something. So encourage them. Say, okay, you make a picture. So whatever. Now, see, no dress is wrong. All of these decorative ones, or I should rather say festive kind of dresses are okay. It's their choice. So give them these kind of questions. Let them come up with brilliant answers. Maybe they come up with better answers than what I have just said. So this is how we can encourage their critical thinking skills. As per the occasion, they will decide the dress. And then this one, debate and discussion. This gives a chance to the children to be very reasonable with their friends in class. You give them some cues and then let them discuss. You be a mute spectator, sit back, observe them, see who's doing what, and then towards the end, when they look up at you for the answer or for a conclusion, then as a moderator, you can come and tell them, okay, this is also correct, this is also correct. So let's think of a midway and come to this kind of conclusion. So this is very, very positive. See, everybody gets to share their ideas and nobody is declared wrong. Everyone is encouraged for their ideas. Right. How do we train our teachers? 3 points I've discussed in the previous slide, and this is another one. Project-based learning, PBL, has become a very, very important kind of, teaching technique in today's times. So what is project-based learning? You give them a project. Like yesterday, I gave the example of seeds. Tell your students to, if it's a science class, I can discuss other subjects also. But to simplify things, you tell your students to take 5 rajma seeds from their mothers from the kitchen. It's easily available, or any other seed for that matter. And tell them 5 ways to keep the seed. They have to take 5 glasses, same size. First glass, the seed is just put like that. Second glass is filled half with the water and the seed is put inside. Third one has only mud and the seed is put over there. In the mud, it's inserted a little into the soil and it is kept away. The fourth one has little bit of soil. It is moistened with water and then the seed is inserted, but these are all kept inside. The fifth one finally will have soil, it will have water, and the seed is inserted. It's put in, it's a little, it is put into the soil And this glass is put outside in the sun. After 7 days, and you keep telling them, keep watering that fifth one outside. And maybe after the 7th day, children will come to you and they'll give their, whatever, what should I say, observations that they have seen. Okay, the first one has not germinated. Second one has not germinated. Maybe the seed coat has come out. Third one also, no germination. Maybe the seed coat has become a little soggy. The fourth one also, because it was kept inside, it did not get sunshine. It may germinate to some extent, but the little seedling is not going to be healthy. But the last one will have a very healthy germinated seed. It'll have a plumule, it'll have a radicle, and they'll be able to see the two cotyledons also, which will be peeping out from the soil. So they will then decipher for themselves that a seed to germinate into a plant or into a seedling has to have soil, water, and sunlight. All these three things are essential for the germination of a seed. So this they've learned themselves. You have not taught them. You just gave them cues. They've learned from their own experience. Metacognition. Now, this is something new. I'm sure teachers would not have heard of it. We know what is recognition. Now, recognition is of something else. But when you do the self kind of recognition, it becomes metacognition. Okay. It helps the students to reflect on their own thinking processes and teaches them to identify their own biases and assumptions. Sometimes we just assume things. We do not go deep down into the crux of the matter. And we just assume we have biases of certain types. Okay, that thing, it cannot be correct. That person cannot say a right thing. This is a bias in our minds. So if we do metacognition, if we reflect upon our own ideas and our thinking processes, then things become easier for us to digest and to accept. Metacognition is important for acceptability of facts. All right. How do we help students to develop critical thinking skills? That was for teachers, how to help them. Now, the strategies that students can themselves also inculcate in their own selves to get better at critical thinking. Question everything. Now, whatever fact is told to you, you try to question, but then think of a relevant question. This has to be told to them that the question should be to the point. It should not come from, anywhere, from nowhere. So suppose your teacher tells you that if you mix carbon dioxide in lime water, it turns milky. Ask them to show it. Ask them to do the experiment. If they say that a candle will not burn in the absence, or it will not remain lit in the absence of oxygen, ask them to show it, because we have to prove that oxygen helps in combustion. It helps in burning. So what the teacher will do, she or he will put a candle in a glass, somewhere, and then cover it with a glass. Within a minute, the candle will blow off, because there's no oxygen to burn. So that's how, students should ask questions which are relevant to the topic being discussed. Suppose it's English, the teacher says Shakespeare was a great dramatist. The student will say, okay, ma'am, if he was great, can you name a few dramas or plays written by him? Well, go ahead, tell them that there were three types of, in fact, four types of plays that he wrote: comedies, tragedies, tragicomedies, and historical plays. So and then you can name them. Tragicomedy, The Twelfth Night; comedy, As You Like It; tragedy, Macbeth; historical, Julius Caesar. So the students will then start believing you. Okay, that trust is important. So when they question, you have to be very careful when you answer. Consider multiple perspectives. Now, when a particular concept is being discussed, the student should be free to think of two or more alternatives, this one or that one. And whatever choice they make, they should have some relevant points to accept that particular situation. Okay, so whatever is their choice, they should have some very, very important, or some I'm not able to get a word, something which forms a basis for their choice. All right. Some strong kind of a thought. It should be there as the basis of their selection or their choice. Next one, evidence. If something has been taught in the class, it's not necessary for them to immediately question the teacher for evidence. They themselves should be encouraged to go out and gather evidence. For example, if a teacher in history, I'm taking another subject now, is discussing the types of architecture in the Middle Ages, the medieval ages, when we know that the Rajputs were quite active, and even the Marathas were there, and of course the Muslims were there, the Mughal emperors were there. So you give them, each of these dynasties, they had their own way of architecture. The buildings that they've made, they all have very distinctive features in them. Okay, so you tell them to collect pictures of from a particular area, maybe from Maharashtra, maybe from the south, maybe from the eastern states of India, maybe say Gujarat and Rajasthan. So when they collect pictures, they themselves will be able to see what were the main features of these buildings that were built in the medieval era. Okay, so rather than you telling them that this is how it was done and this is how they did it, or this is how the Rajputs made their palaces and temples, children will give you the information along with examples. All right, because now they have so much of information at hand. So we continue with that, how to develop strategies of critical thinking among students. Then whatever assumptions are made, when some assumptions are made by their colleagues or by teachers, then the children should have the ability to recognize and challenge the assumptions, because there could be claims that need to be refuted. Sometimes, a friend may come up with an assumption or some kind of they may say, they may promote a certain idea. So the other child should have the ability to identify, no, this is a false claim. So they should have the ability to recognize and challenge the assumptions that probably underlie the information or the arguments which have been put forward. Okay, this ability needs to be developed. If the children are not able to, then you should come up with these questions. Okay, you say this, but are you sure that this is true? How can you prove it? So these proofs can be recorded, they can be collected in the class itself. Analyze the arguments. Whatever arguments are put forward, you can break them down into small pieces or into parts, then evaluate the logic which goes behind them, and maybe just in case it's not absolutely true, then you can identify the potential fallacies and bring them out before your students. This is how they will also learn to analyze the information which they have got, or maybe which has been collected by their friends. Skepticism. We generally take skepticism as a negative trait. No. If we did not have this questioning thing, if we did not have doubts, then probably the kind of progress which mankind has made would not have been possible. Yesterday also in the webinar, I mentioned that if people had believed that the earth is flat and that the sun goes around the earth, we today would have probably been believing the same thing. But no, there were certain people who challenged this thought. They were skeptical about it. They said, no, this cannot happen. How can the earth be flat? Because wherever we go, we never come to the end of the earth. All right. So had they not thought over these lines, probably we would not have developed. So in those days also, in those very, very early times of civilization, some people had the guts to question popular beliefs. So if you do that, it is healthy skepticism. It cannot be termed negative by any means. Self-reflection, again, is important because we are not always correct. Okay. we may have negative thoughts, we may have certain biases in our mind which does not or which do not make us take the correct decision. So when you find yourself in a situation where things are not working out, do a kind of self-reflection. Or when you're not able to come to a conclusion for a particular problem, you're not able to solve it, do a reflection. Where did I go wrong? How is it that I'm not able to solve this particular problem? So when you do self-reflection, obviously you'll be able to come to a better conclusion. So this is what should be taught to students as one of their strategies to develop their critical thinking skills. Now, additional resources which I would recommend in this process. The first one is a Socratic seminar. We all know what are seminars. There's so many delegates who get together and each one of them puts their ideas forward and then questions are asked. But sometimes they are intervened. Questions are asked as the speaker is putting forward his or her ideas. This is not a healthy thing to do. We must wait for the speaker to complete the speech, and then questions which have been noted during the course of the speech should be put up then. This is a Socratic seminar because everyone's respect is maintained. Okay, nobody is made to feel awkward or embarrassed as and when they are talking. So this is a very decent way of conducting a discussion. Socratic seminar where everyone gets the due respect which should be there. Bloom's taxonomy. Yesterday, I had mentioned this, and even before when I had uploaded my video on this particular topic, I'd said that go through this before coming to the next webinar. So here, how is Bloom's taxonomy related to critical thinking? It is. You know, because this framework, Bloom's taxonomy is a framework which categorizes different levels of thinking skills. And this in turn helps teachers to design activities which helps in promoting higher order thinking skills. All right. So if we know, like I'd given an, an acronym yesterday, KCAASE. If you are not able to remember all these 6 levels of this taxonomy, so it's knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. All right. And these are all nouns. Later on, when some changes were made, then the nouns were given more importance. Okay. So it was, verbs were given importance. I'm sorry. This is important because if teachers know how to go about, because we have to go about in a very logical manner. So this is the logical sequence which gives rise to better higher order thinking skills. All right. So this was my, take on critical thinking skills. But before I end off, these are my parting thoughts. Thinking outside the box is important. Like I have mentioned in my workshops with teachers outside, that at times, things happen which you have never expected, but then you have to think of an answer. Like I remember we were having a function. It was a ladies get together and suddenly the mics went off. So whoever was the MC was trying to say something, but her voice was not audible. After a couple of minutes, somehow, that error could be rectified. So when she came, now she had that presence of mind and she says, ladies, this silence was orchestrated on purpose. Okay, this was by default and everybody clapped. So at that particular moment, if you have critical thinking abilities, it gives you a saving grace. I mean, you do not cut a sorry figure, you do not feel embarrassed. So whenever there's such a situation, think of something which makes you a very good orator and a presenter. All right. The next one is the spirit of inquiry should not be snubbed. If your students ask questions, please do not get upset. Give them proper answers. And the last one, problem solving skills should be encouraged. Give them different problems, give them situations, and let them come out with a solution themselves. So that was it, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with me. And I hope I could give you some relevant information on how thinking, critical thinking skills can be developed in our students. So I'll come up with another helpful idea very soon. Thank you so much for being patient. And let's see. I hope to see you very soon once again. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a wonderful day tomorrow.